From the rocky shores of Maine to the sunlit cliffs of California, America's coastline holds towns that tell stories as old as the nation itself. Some began as fishing villages, where generations worked the sea, others as playgrounds for wealthy families chasing summer breezes, and many still carry the marks of storms, wars, and cultural revolutions. These towns aren't just beautiful, they are living records of history, shaped by the people who built lighthouses, hauled nets, painted harbors, and rebuilt after disasters. Join us as we explore 20 of the most beautiful coastal towns in the USA, each with a past as compelling as the views that surround it. At the very southern tip of the continental United States lies Key West, a town that feels like it belongs to another world. In the 1800s, it was one of the wealthiest cities in Florida, thanks to shipwreck salvaging, cigar making, and fishing. Its colorful history is filled with names like Ernest Hemingway, who wrote some of his best work here during the 1930s, and President Harry Truman, who used the Little White House as his winter retreat. Today, visitors still wander past Hemingway's house, where descendants of his six-toed cats roam the gardens. But Key West is also about spirit and culture. Duval Street comes alive at night with music, conch fritters, and sunset celebrations at Mallory Square, a tradition that began in the 1960s. The southernmost Point Buoy, set up in 1983, marks just how close the island is to Cuba, only 90 miles away. Despite hurricanes and changing tides, Key West has preserved its identity as a mix of Caribbean flavor and American grit. It's a place where history, literature, and island life collide under the tropical sun. Founded in 1709, Beaufort is one of the oldest towns in North Carolina and carries a deep maritime history. Its harbor was once a safe haven for privateers and pirates, including the infamous Blackbeard. In 1718, his flagship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, ran aground near Beaufort Inlet, and artifacts from the wreck are still being recovered today. The town's waterfront is lined with restored 18th and 19th century homes that belonged to merchants and sea captains, offering a window into the colonial past. Despite its age, Beaufort has kept its coastal charm intact. The harbor bustles with fishing boats and sailing vessels, while Front Street offers cafes, antique shops, and fresh seafood restaurants. Carriage tours and the town's historic cemetery tell stories of sea captains, soldiers, and settlers who shaped the community. Just offshore lies the Rachel Carson Reserve, where wild horses graze along the shoreline. Beaufort blends pirate legends, maritime tradition, and small-town southern hospitality into one unforgettable stop. Charleston, founded in 1670, is one of America's most historic and storied port cities. It played a central role in both the American Revolution and the Civil War, with Fort Sumter in its harbor marking the war's first shots in 1861. The city is known for its pastel-colored homes along Rainbow Row, cobblestone streets, and grand antebellum mansions that survived fire, earthquakes, and hurricanes. Every corner seems to hold echoes of its colonial beginnings and the wealth it once gained from rice and indigo. Yet Charleston is not just a relic of history, it's alive with culture and resilience. The city market, established in 1807, still hums with vendors selling sweetgrass baskets, a tradition passed down from African artisans. Churches dating back to the 1700s stand as landmarks, earning Charleston the nickname the Holy City. Visitors can take harbor cruises, walk beneath centuries-old oak trees, or wander into family-owned restaurants serving low-country dishes like shrimp and grits. Charleston is where Southern history, cuisine, and charm come together by the water's edge. Santa Barbara has been called the American Riviera for more than a century, thanks to its Mediterranean-style architecture and stunning ocean views. Spanish settlers established the area in the late 1700s, with the Santa Barbara Mission, founded in 1786, still anchoring the city's history. After a devastating earthquake in 1925 leveled much of downtown, leaders rebuilt it in Spanish colonial revival style, giving Santa Barbara the red-tiled roofs and whitewashed walls that define it today. That decision turned the town into one of the most visually distinctive places on the California coast. By the late 1800s, Santa Barbara was already a resort for wealthy travelers seeking mild winters and ocean air. The arrival of the Southern Pacific Railroad in 1887 opened the town to even more visitors, cementing its reputation as a seaside retreat. Today, State Street blends boutiques, theaters, and restaurants beneath rows of palm trees. The beaches attract surfers and sun-seekers, while the nearby hills hold vineyards producing world-class wines. Santa Barbara has carried its Spanish heritage into modern times, with a charm rooted in both history and landscape. Cannon Beach gets its name from an actual cannon that washed ashore in 1846, part of a U.S. Navy schooner wreck. The town itself grew slowly in the late 1800s, drawing settlers who farmed, fished, and later built vacation cottages. By the 20th century, its beaches had become a major draw, especially the towering Haystack Rock, rising 235 feet from the shoreline. The rock is a nesting site for puffins and a natural icon recognized around the world. The town is known for its art scene as much as its natural landmarks. The annual Cannon Beach Sandcastle contest, first held in 1964, remains a beloved tradition that began after a storm destroyed roads, leaving residents to entertain themselves on the beach. Today, Galleries and studios line Hemlock Street, showcasing regional artists who draw inspiration from the ocean and forests. Cannon Beach has managed to keep a small-town feel, even as it became one of Oregon's most photographed destinations. La Jolla, a seaside neighborhood of San Diego, has been attracting visitors since the late 1800s, when its cliffs and coves were promoted as a seaside resort. The Scripps family played a major role in shaping the town, funding institutions like the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, founded in 1903. In the mid-20th century, La Jolla became a cultural hub as well, with actor Gregory Peck helping to establish the La Jolla Playhouse in 1947. That mix of science, art, and natural beauty shaped its identity as more than just a beach town. The coastline is its greatest stage, from the famous sea caves that kayakers paddle through to the La Jolla Cove, where sea lions bask on the rocks. The village center is filled with galleries, boutiques, and restaurants that spill out onto the streets. The University of California, San Diego, located just inland, adds an academic energy to the area. La Jolla is both upscale and naturally wild, with its rugged cliffs standing in sharp contrast to the polished neighborhoods above. Destin started as a quiet fishing village in the mid-1800s, named after Leonard Destin, a New London fisherman who settled here in 1845. For more than a century, it remained a small community where fishing was the lifeline, and by the 20th century, it had earned the nickname the world's luckiest fishing village. In 1948, the annual Destin Fishing Rodeo began, drawing anglers from around the world, and it still takes over the docks every October. The emerald green waters and sugar-white beaches gave the town another identity, one of the most desirable vacation spots on Florida's Gulf Coast. Today, the harbor is filled with charter boats, seafood shacks, and markets where the day's catch is still sold fresh. Crab Island, once a sandbar, has become a gathering place for boaters and visitors floating in the shallow waters. The Destin History and Fishing Museum tells the story of how this little village transformed into a major destination. Even with all the growth, the rhythm of fishing and the beauty of the Gulf remain at the heart of the town. Just 20 minutes from Savannah lies Tybee Island, a barrier island that has welcomed travelers for centuries. Its most iconic landmark is the Tybee Island Lighthouse, first built in 1736 and rebuilt several times after storms and the Civil War. The island has long been tied to military history. Fort Screven, constructed in the late 1800s, still overlooks the shoreline. Tybee's mix of military roots and simple beach life makes it a coastal town, unlike any other. Despite its history, Tybee has kept a laid-back spirit. Families stroll the long beaches, anglers cast lines from the pier, and kayakers explore salt marshes teeming with wildlife. The town's motto, Savannah's Beach, reflects its role as a getaway for city dwellers seeking sun and sand. The Civil War-era cannon batteries, along with the Lighthouse Museum, remind visitors of the island's past even as they enjoy its relaxed present. Tybee is a reminder that history and leisure can live side by side on a small stretch of Georgia coast. Apalachicola, on Florida's Gulf Coast, is a town that rose to prominence in the early 1800s as one of the South's busiest cotton ports. Its antebellum homes and brick warehouses still line the streets, recalling a time when steamboats carried goods down the Apalachicola River. The town's name, derived from a Native American word meaning people on the other side, reflects its deep roots in local history. It later became famous for oysters, supplying nearly 90% of Florida's supply through much of the 20th century. Even as the oyster industry declined in recent years, Apalachicola has retained its old-world character. Visitors can wander through historic districts filled with boutiques, galleries, and seafood restaurants. Maritime museums tell the story of its river trade and fishing traditions, while boat tours explore the Apalachicola Bay and its rich ecosystem. Despite being small, the town's mix of culture, food, and history makes it one of Florida's most authentic coastal gems. Fairhope was founded in 1894 as a social experiment known as a single tax colony, where residents hoped to create a fairer society. Writers, artists, and intellectuals soon followed, giving the town a creative streak that still lingers. The sweeping views over Mobile Bay have inspired countless works of art and stories, and the town's bluff is one of the only naturally elevated spots along the eastern Gulf. Walking through Fairhope feels different, almost as though it was designed to feel slower, more thoughtful. The town's downtown is lined with cafes, bookshops, and galleries, many of them run by locals who carry on that original creative spirit. Seasonal events like the annual Arts and Crafts Festival, first held in 1953, draw thousands of visitors every spring. The Fairhope Pier, rebuilt several times after hurricanes, has long been a gathering point for fishing and sunsets. It's a place where history, art, and community have been blended into a coastal town with an unusually thoughtful origin. Bay St. Louis has worn many faces throughout its history, from a French settlement in the 1690s to a thriving resort town for wealthy New Orleanians in the 1800s. Its historic homes and churches reflect that Creole influence, giving the town a character unlike anywhere else on the Mississippi coast. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina nearly wiped Bay St. Louis off the map, destroying most of the downtown and its landmarks. The rebuilding that followed became part of the town's identity, as artists and locals worked together to bring life back to the streets. Now, the old town is filled with galleries, antique shops, and cafes that thrive in restored historic buildings. The 1928 Bay St. Louis Depot serves as both a welcome center and a reminder of the town's railroad days. Community events, like the monthly Second Saturday Art Walk, show how culture has helped carry the town forward after disaster. Bay St. Louis feels both historic and modern, shaped by survival and creativity in equal measure. Galveston was once one of the richest cities in Texas, its prosperity booming in the mid-1800s thanks to shipping and trade. By 1900, it was the largest city in the state until the infamous Galveston hurricane struck, killing thousands and changing the course of its history forever. Many of the Victorian mansions built during the town's golden years, such as the 1892 Bishop's Palace, still stand as testaments to that era. The Strand Historic District shows off the grand architecture of the time, a reminder of what the city once was. Despite the devastation, Galveston rebuilt and shifted into tourism. Its seawall, first built after the hurricane, stretches for miles, protecting the island and offering a promenade for beachgoers. Today, the town draws visitors with attractions like Moody Gardens, the historic pleasure pier, and its long sandy beaches. Galveston has carried its complicated past into the present, balancing Victorian elegance with the lively feel of a Gulf Coast resort. Port Aransas sits on Mustang Island, where Spanish explorers landed as early as the 1500s. Once a rough-and-tumble town of ranchers and fishermen, it slowly grew into a laid-back beach community. In the late 19th century, tarpon fishing put the town on the map, drawing sportsmen from across the country. By the mid-1900s, its small-town fishing heritage had mixed with a growing reputation as a beach getaway. Today, the town still leans on that dual identity. Fishermen crowd the docks, while beachgoers stretch out along the island's wide, sandy shores. The Port Aransas Museum preserves stories of its early days, including tales of hurricanes that shaped the community over centuries. Annual events like Texas Sandfest, the largest sand sculpting competition in the U.S., highlight how the town has embraced both art and tradition. Port Aransas remains rooted in its fishing legacy, even as it continues to grow as a coastal destination. Carmel-by-the-Sea began attracting artists and writers in the early 1900s, transforming it into one of the most famous Bohemian colonies on the West Coast. Jack London, Robinson Jeffers, and Sinclair Lewis all spent time here, shaping its identity as a creative haven. The town incorporated in 1916, but resisted conventional rules. There are still quirky laws, like the requirement for permits to wear high heels on its uneven streets. In the 1980s, Carmel gained extra fame when actor Clint Eastwood served as mayor, bringing international attention to the small town. The village itself is postcard perfect, with storybook cottages, cobblestone lanes, and a beach framed by cypress trees. Art galleries still line Ocean Avenue, many of them tracing their roots back to Carmel's earliest artist settlers. Carmel Mission, founded in 1771 by Father Junipero Serra, stands as a reminder of California's Spanish past. Between the rugged coastlines of Big Sur and the manicured charm of Carmel's streets, the town continues to balance natural beauty with its cultural history. Perched on the cliffs of Northern California, Mendocino was founded in the 1850s by New England loggers drawn to its redwood forests. The town's wooden Victorian houses and saltbox cottages reflect those Yankee roots, making it feel more like a New England village than a California town. By the mid-20th century, artists discovered Mendocino's dramatic coastline, turning it into another West Coast creative enclave. Its history is layered with timber wealth, immigrant communities, and later, a revival through the arts. The views here are as compelling as the history. Sea arches, headlands, and fog-draped cliffs surround the town. The Mendocino Headlands State Park, established in the 1970s, preserved much of the coastline from development. Small galleries, inns, and cafes fill the historic buildings, many of them run by longtime residents. For decades, Mendocino has stood as a quiet outpost where rugged scenery and artistic spirit meet. Bar Harbor sits on Mount Desert Island, where the rocky coastline of Maine meets the Atlantic. By the late 1800s, this little town had become the summer escape of America's wealthiest families, including the Rockefellers and Vanderbilts. Their grand cottages, as they like to call them, still stand as reminders of the Gilded Age, when steamboats and trains brought high society north. But beyond its glamorous past, Bar Harbor has always kept a deep connection to the sea, from lobstermen hauling traps at dawn to artists capturing the rugged beauty of Frenchman Bay. Today, Bar Harbor is best known as the gateway to Acadia National Park, which was officially established in 1919. Every year, millions of visitors arrive to hike Cadillac Mountain, where sunrise first touches the U.S. mainland. The town itself feels timeless, with its brick sidewalks, bookstores, and family-run restaurants serving clam chowder and blueberry pie. Locals often tell stories of the Great Fire of 1947, which reshaped much of the island and led to a rebirth of the community. Bar Harbor isn't just a summer resort, it's a town layered with history, resilience, and the kind of scenery that makes you stop and breathe a little deeper. Rockport, a small fishing town on Cape Ann, is famous for a single red shack known as Motif No. 1. Built in the 1840s as a simple fishing shed, it became one of the most painted and photographed buildings in America by the early 1900s. Artists were drawn here in waves, turning Rockport into an art colony with galleries that still line Bearskin Neck today. Walking the narrow streets, you can almost imagine the sound of brushes on canvas as painters worked against the salty breeze. History here is more than art, though. It's tied to the sea. In 1814, Rockport was the site of a British attack during the War of 1812, a reminder that its shores weren't always peaceful. Later, the granite quarries made the town prosperous, exporting stone for buildings across the country. Today, Rockport blends that working-class history with seaside charm, where fishing boats still bob in the harbor and visitors gather for fresh lobster rolls on the docks. It's a place where history, art, and the ocean are forever woven together. Newport's story is one of wealth, sailing, and resilience. Founded in 1639, it became one of the most important colonial seaports, buzzing with merchants and shipbuilders. By the Gilded Age, it was transformed again, as America's richest families built elaborate mansions like the Breakers, completed by Cornelius Vanderbilt II in 1895. These estates still line Bellevue Avenue, a grand display of marble, chandeliers, and old-world extravagance. Newport is also a city of sails. For over 50 years, it hosted the America's Cup, the world's oldest sailing competition, drawing global attention to its harbor. The town itself has cobblestone streets filled with colonial-era taverns and churches that whisper of revolutionary times. The Cliff Walk, a public trail along the shoreline, shows off both natural beauty and the grandeur of those Gilded Age mansions. Newport remains one of the best examples of how American wealth, history, and the sea all collided in one remarkable coastal town. Cape May holds the honor of being America's oldest seaside resort, with roots stretching back to the late 1700s. By the mid-1800s, it was the summer playground of Philadelphia and New York elites who came to escape the heat. The town is most famous for its perfectly preserved Victorian architecture, with painted ladies lining nearly every street. Strolling through Cape May feels like stepping back into 1890, with horse-drawn carriages, ornate gingerbread trim, and gas lamps glowing at dusk. But Cape May isn't just about pretty houses. Its beaches have drawn visitors for over 2 centuries, and the Cape May Lighthouse, built in 1859, still stands as a sentinel at the tip of New Jersey. During World War II, the town played a role in coastal defense, with lookouts scanning the Atlantic for German U-boats. Today, it's a mix of history and relaxation, where visitors tour historic inns by day and gather for sunsets over Delaware Bay at night. Cape May proves that tradition and seaside charm can live side by side. Chincoteague is a barrier island town with a story unlike any other on the East Coast. Its fame comes from the wild ponies that have roamed nearby Chincoteague Island for centuries. Legend says they are descendants of Spanish horses that swam ashore from a shipwreck in the 1600s, though historians believe they more likely came from settlers fencing their livestock. In 1947, the children's book Misty of Chincoteague brought the ponies national fame, making this little town a household name. Every July, the pony swim turns into a spectacle that draws thousands of visitors. The ponies are guided across the channel at low tide, a tradition managed by the Chincoteague Volunteer Fire Company since 1925. Beyond the ponies, the town is shaped by its oyster and clam heritage, with watermen still working the bays as they have for generations. With its marshes, quiet beaches, and small-town atmosphere, Chincoteague feels like a coastal community where time slows down and history continues to live through tradition.